Hello everybody, thank you for clicking on my video. Today I'm just going to be talking a little bit about the history, present, and future of missions to Mars. Hopefully give you guys some facts that you've never heard and educate everyone a little bit on the ongoing pursuit to put boots on Mars. So, space exploration on our planet kind of has a long and sort of storybook history to it. We all know that it sort of began with the Cold War and the USSR versus the United States, and both of the countries' pursuits to, outdo each other and reach the moon and reach space first. So, without the Cold War, we can really kind of safely say that space exploration and space missions would have been severely delayed. The USSR got a leg up on the United States when they sent Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin to space in 1961. Well, of course, the United States would not let it be done there, and they sent a mission to the moon in 1969 when Neil Armstrong famously became the first astronaut to land on the moon. Well, ever since that day, things have really started to slow down in the space exploration category as the Cold War sort of began to cool off. The budget for NASA slowly began to decrease. It dropped from $5 billion in the 60s to just over $3 billion in 1974. Really slowing down NASA's progress and ambitious timelines for new space missions. As a result, any missions that had been planned to reach Mars or that had anything to do with Mars really were kind of killed off or just really slowed down because this part of the United States budget was just not a priority anymore, and the money was allocated to other resources such as infrastructure and just growing the nation in other ways that are more productive than space. But as time went on, Mars missions would begin to develop. Once again, the USSR became the first to achieve something in the category of Mars when they landed and received a transmission from a rover, the first ever rover, in 1972. However, this transmission only lasted for about 20 seconds and the mission was deemed a failure. Soon after, the United States would send the Viking 1 and Viking 2 orbiters and landers to the planet, which were successful, and they sent back the first and then soon 50,000 photos to Earth, giving people on Earth the first close-up view of Mars they had ever seen. So in total, there have been 7 successful unmanned missions to Mars, and the most recent of those coming in 2012 when the United States landed the Curiosity rover. The problem with rovers, however, is that they provide extremely limited data and they aren't very durable machines. Because of the limited data, NASA has began to test and prepare to send humans to Mars because with humans going there, they can perform experiments, collect data, collect soil samples, and bring them back to Earth to be tested, giving us a much wider range of known facts about Mars. These tests and preparations include sending astronaut Scott Kelly to space for 1 full year to test the effects of being in space for that long on the human body. These tests are important in that the data collected from them will be useful to knowing what it will be like for astronauts during the year-long flight to Mars, as well as when they land on Mars and all of a sudden have to walk around with gravity again. Walking in new gravity after being in space for a year all of a sudden becomes a much more challenging task than your everyday stroll down the sidewalk. Specifically, some of the effects that are being tested include bone mass loss, the strength of the heart in zero gravity, and loss of vision due to the swelling of the face while being in space, and also harmful radiation because once you're in space, you're not protected from the Earth, and radiation does become a big issue, especially on a year-long flight. But aside from NASA, private efforts to reach Mars have also been popping up recently. Popularly known Elon Musk company SpaceX has released plans in which they will attempt to reach Mars as well. Since SpaceX is a private company rather than a government-funded company, not as much is known about their plan and their progress because they are not required to release information to the public as NASA is. What is known, however, is that they have proposed to send 100 people in one rocket at a time, and they have also released an incredibly ambitious timeline for their mission. A benefit that comes with private companies, however, is that they don't have government funding, so their budget is not controlled. So whatever money they have and whatever money they wish to spend on a mission to Mars, they can. Unfortunately, though, private efforts to reach Mars might not even be real in some cases. Mars One is supposedly a private effort to reach Mars. However, there is much speculation over whether or not it is even real. All that is really known about Mars One is that they have a website roughly outlining their plan to reach Mars and establish a settlement there over a number of years, but not much is known at all about the company, especially because there's been much speculation that they have actually ripped off the astronauts who have voluntarily signed up to be a part of the mission, and no one has ever really even met with Mars One officials or leaders to begin the preparations, and there's a lot of people saying that they don't even have the resources or the funding to actually pull off a mission all the way to Mars. So this could just be one big huge scam and not even close to a real mission at all. Being able to understand Mars based off of a manned mission could help humans survive on Earth a lot more than one might think. There are actually some rocks that have been found on Earth that are said to show possible signs of life on Mars. Certain rocks that have been ejected from the surface of Mars due to asteroid impacts have landed on Earth, and people have stumbled across them, and scientists have analyzed their contents. In doing so, they have found certain chemical compounds that on Earth are created from microbes. This strongly suggests that there once was life on Mars if these compounds are found in a rock that came from Mars. It is also widely known that there is ice on the poles of Mars, and there are seemingly ancient riverbeds that run all across the Martian surface. With all this evidence suggesting that there could have once been life on Mars, this just tells us that a manned mission to Mars would be incredibly valuable because they would be able to obtain those soil samples that could be brought back to Earth and analyzed to truly find out and prove whether or not there was or was not life on Mars at some point. Well, hopefully you were able to learn something new and realize that we are much closer to sending a mission to Mars than one might think. Hopefully in the next 10 to 20 years, we'll all be sitting around the TV watching the first astronaut ever to land on Mars. After all, at this point, it is only a matter of time.